We're going to swap over now through to the pasture side of things. Neil's still going to be involved in that. We are videoing this whole session, so you will be able to get a revision of it on YouTube as well. This mic's part of the video, it's not actually on a speaker, so if you're asking a question, I'm going to come around with this mic so you actually get your question on the video too. So just I could take a couple of quick questions now to Neil on that topic if you like. If someone's got a question, just give us a bit of time to get the mic to you and I'll answer it for you. Okay, well, wait on, there's one over.
I guess my question can follow on from an answer you gave someone before.
Sure.
And it's something I'm always struggling with, and that is the feed value of different feeds. So, you know, we've got a lot of kikuyu around the area, and I'm always struggling to know, well, what are our cattle actually getting out of that?
Yes.
Where do we find that information?
Look, there's such a huge range of published values. Okay, at the end of the day, if you're a serious producer, all right, invest in it. And what I would be doing is saying, well, look, I'm going to do a few feed tests with your own kikuyu, okay? And that'll cost you $70 to $100. You might be able to get some assistance through DPI. I don't know what happens with local lands and whether Pete would have certainly a lot of feed values on record, but quite often it's about understanding the kikuyu under your management system because it's highly malleable to management, all right? We can have kikuyu that can be 12% protein and 32% protein. So just looking at a book value isn't going to give you the answer, okay? Because if we put good fertility on it and we keep it short, all right, completely different feed to rank yellow kikuyu, all right? So what I'd say is have a look across your season, okay? Take a few samples as it progresses. Yeah. You can pop them in the freezer, all right? You can freeze them, so you don't have to send them one at a time, all right? And build yourself up your own database, all right? And you could, so Feed Central is certainly one lab which I'd have a good look at. There's a DPI lab. I think the Feed Central testing is more comprehensive, okay? And again, that's on the web. You'll find that, feedcentral.com, and they'll have send feed test. You'll work your way through it, okay? But getting your own understanding of what your feeds look like, and you can have a look. Well, here's some we threw a bit of nitrogen on, or a bit of chook poo, or whatever you do, and here's one we did nothing with. All right, and are there differences in those? Because I think at the end of the day, I can tell you what's going to happen because I've seen it 100 times. But a lot of time you've got to look at what happens when you do it yourself to have that confidence, okay, and understanding of how responsive those systems are to your management. And kikuyu is a really good example. It's incredibly responsive to management. It's a wonderful resource, but it can be a nightmare as well, okay? Yeah. Is that a fair answer, Pete? You might have some comments, yeah.
Yeah, I guess just to back up, just to finish that, if you think about your kikuyu, so Bill Forkinson, there's really good info out there with Bill Forkinson. If you look what he's published, there's some stuff around leaf stage on kikuyu. So, you know, if you start to look at leaf stage on kikuyu, especially at the moment, the way we're going, you know, it can grow a leaf every 4 or 5 days, okay? So if you've got stuff there that's over 20 days old, it's getting well and truly past this point, okay? So if you look at leaf stage and then look at the ME, so that's quality, obviously it can drop down really, really quick once you pass that 4 leaf stage. If you look at protein, it does a similar thing. And then this here is just showing that as it starts to go past that canopy closure, as it starts to elongate and chase light, it's going to grow more stem. Neil talked about it earlier, all that lignin and all that that's trying to grow to get stronger, to try and get taller. And then you're going to get a lot more dead material underneath. So if you're getting yellowing under the canopy, that's lost quality and that's deading material. So it's quite, you know, you can look for the exact values and all that sort of stuff, but basically if you try and keep it nice and leafy, not let it get too overgrown, all that sort of stuff, and try and keep it around this area, that's where you want to be aiming to.
Just another comment, grazing management's important too. You'll often see dairy, well I've been in Tokyo dairy, they've had tall rank kikuyu, but they're only putting in the cows and they're just eating the leaf off. So what their intake is reasonable quality, but the stem, which is, you know, we talk about figures of 9 to 10 in the leaf, but the stem might be 7. So you might put them in, take it off, and then realise that what's left is really not much good. And we often talk in the dairy industry of what's milking feed and what's dry cow feed. So we'll put the milking cows in and they'll take the leaf off, and then you might bring in heifers or dry cows to clean up the rest. So that's a big part of how you manage it too. But really understand with kike, leaf is good, and it'll grow tall and rank, and you'll always have a similar amount of leaf. It might reach 13 to 1,500 kilos of dry matter there, but the stem will just keep growing and growing. It's a bit like Soteria, it'll grow the stem above the leaf. Kikuyu is growing the stem below the leaf. But they're both, as they age, they're growing more and more stem and losing quality, losing time. And while you let that stem grow, you're using sunlight and nutrients to grow poor quality feed. So graze it down, get it growing back leaf again. That's how you generate the most quality and the most energy over time. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the circumstances, but I think kikuyu should be mulched at least twice a year. It doesn't have to be mulched every grazing, but at least once or twice, depending on stocking rates and conditions.
Coming on to winter, what length do you think you should be slashing kikuyu down to?
Well, it's a big point that we're talking about. One of the biggest things, and it's really hard because of quality, but at the moment, if kike's really tall, one of your biggest problems is there's clover seed potentially germinating underneath it. And so you're growing a lot of stem that's not much use. You really want to bring it back to about that 12 to 15 centimetre height, and a large part of that is to get clover coming up. Now, we were discussing this before. You may not have the cattle to eat the whole lot out, but you might say, I want to manage this part of the paddock to so I'm getting good quality feed, I'm getting clover growing through the winter, and the rest I just can't manage it. I'll leave it, and I'll use that as dry feed for winter.
I think that's a really important part of strategic management when you've got a low stocking rate. You've got so many options. I know it's hard because it's been really wet, but there's other options as well. You could say, well, look, I'm going to let that grow, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take silage. All right, put a bit of feed away. That opens the sward right up. Okay, and as opposed to mulching it into the ground, we can strategically say, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus my herd on this part of the farm, keep it eating pretty well. Here I'm going to proactively leave that out, let that grow. I'll take a cut of silage off it, okay, because by conserving kikuyu as silage, at least we're going to have an 8 megajoule feed. If you let it go as dry standing rank feed, it might be 4 or 5, okay, in the middle of winter, and nothing will have had the chance to grow through. But by opening it up, okay, with the silage, grazing the other stuff harder, it just gives you that opportunity to build a bit of a portfolio. We'll talk about a bit about portfolio here in a minute, okay? And this is the thing that stuff like the kikuyu and the subtropicals do. It gives you the options to do conservation. And again, it's not going to be lucerne hay, okay? But it's substantially better than thin air in the middle of the winter, all right? And we've all lived through a bit of thin air over the last few years. Okay, so if you can get on your ground, and this is the big issue at the moment, is actually getting on your ground and getting two drying days to make silage is one of the biggest challenges that we've actually got at the moment, particularly in our dairy systems. Or finding a contractor, because they're thin on the ground at the best of times, and they're all busy when it's good, and they're only operating in narrow windows too.
But in the longer term, if we can start using kikuyu silage a lot more, then the contractors will build up business and it'll become a useful part of your system. And the fact is, we have got silage tests of kikuyu silage up around the 10. And if it's managed right, 9s and 10s is actually quite... You'll grow cattle on that and be able to feed them back. So,
absolutely, and certainly for maintaining dry cows, or all those sorts of things, absolutely wonderful food. Those silages, they're quite good. And it's about, a lot of this is around philosophy, mentality, and sort of saying, well, are we growing it just harvesting excess just because there's an opportunity, or are we starting to think about this free crop as a crop and managing it as a crop? Okay, because we'll spend a heap of money putting in a sorghum crop, and we'll sit there and we won't put fertiliser on the kikuyu. It doesn't quite make sense to me a lot of the time. Okay, they're both growing about the same rate under the same conditions, under the same amount of rainfall. It's just one costs you nothing to establish. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's an opportunity that's being missed. Yeah. Did we have one more question?
Same question.
Yeah, cool. All right. And we'll talk a bit more about it as we go through, if we have time. Yeah.
One quick question.
Absolutely.
Because we're talking about after drought situation.
Yep.
Where probably a lot of us sold cattle late last year for nothing.
Yes.
And we've got nothing to feed the grass. And we'd love to buy back in, but we can't because it's twice the price.
Yes.
Of the norm.
Mm.
Where do you go? Because I've actually just cut some silage.
Yep.
Just a little bit.
Brilliant. Yep.
But my understanding of silage, which I've not used before,
Yep.
is it doesn't last forever. So if I went and cut all the paddocks to silage,
Yep.
I'd never ever get to use it.
And I think that's absolutely right. So we are going to have wastage, okay? There's no doubt that if you are heavily understocked and you don't have the coin in your pocket to go and pay whatever it's going to cost, there's going to be loss, okay? And
You'll get even more losses if you pay today's prices.
Absolutely.
Sell them at the end of the year.
Look, I think at the moment, anything you do needs to be quick trade stuff. All right, probably, and I'm not going to get into a trading discussion, but if you're buying short and selling short, okay, and if you can put 100 kilos on something in 3 months, chances are you'll be selling into a pretty hot market still, because we still haven't seen full recovery inland, okay, and there's no cattle. All right, so that demand is likely to stay high. The analysts are saying it's going to stay high for a while. So, it might be hideous to be buying at $4 a kilo, but there's a pretty good chance you're going to sell out at 4. But I can't guarantee that, and I won't.
What's your name again?
Yeah. No, it's not GOD, I can assure you. So it would be with a lot of caution that you'd go in. And I think, what can we do? Maybe it's an opportunity to do some regrassing, if that's what you want to do, with lower stocking rate. Because one of the important things if you're going into new perennials is you don't trash them with too many stock in the first year. So there might be some opportunities to do some of those things if we're stocked a bit lower. If you're doing silage in large volumes, the first thing I'd say is pay a bit more money for a few extra wraps, okay, if you're doing round bales, okay, because if they're going in cheap and cheerful and only putting 4 wraps on, or 3 wraps, that's going to last a lot longer than someone that puts 6 wraps on. So do some stuff on putting more wraps on.
You're not going to use it in 12 months, you need...
At least 6, yeah. So that gives you a little bit more coverage on round bales, all right? It's not the other is to bury it, okay? And if you have adequate volume and the contractors are right, pit silage can last 15, 20 years. But that's an infrastructure issue, it's a contractor issue as well, and I can't solve that for you up here.
So I've got to say to the contractor, can somebody cut it for me?
Yes.
I want 6 wraps.
Absolutely.
10 wraps.
If you don't think you're going to use it in 12 months,
It's going to cost more money.
yep. Yep, nothing's, and they may charge you more for that, okay? But as an alternative, if that gives you some more coverage, it gives you more
If you look
coverage.
at some quick numbers though, like the wrap might cost $7, $8.
Total?
Per wrap,
No, for the whole bale.
right?
Right.
For how many wraps?
For 4.
You might go up $1 a bale,
You might go up $1 a bale. So it's not going to be,
Per wrap.
yeah.
per bale, $1 per
Yeah.
bale.
So it's not extreme. And the other one I say when I'm talking to guys, farmers about contractors is pay them when they go out the gate, take them over a coffee, take them sandwiches. You want them to be your best mate. You want them on your farm when you want them. And if you've got to pay a bit extra, we've done some numbers only in the last couple of days with Neil Griffiths, which most of you probably know Neil Griffiths, that the difference between good bales to bad bales is huge, and paying an extra $4 or $5 to get them when you want them is well money worth spent.